Hello and welcome to the Volunteer Firefighter Podcast. What's wrong with that?
Hello.
Hello. Today I'm joined with Ash.
Yes. Oh.
And Todd.
Hello.
So tonight we just got off of doing some videoing and some training, I guess, with some of the newer people.
Yeah.
We just did some sprinkler deployment. And we're going to talk about that tonight, I guess.
Yeah.
Right? But first we got some news.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, there's so far in BC this year we've had 3 deaths related to forest fires, and the last one was just a pilot out of on a fire in northwest Alberta. He was flying a Bell 205A that went down, and he passed away. But he's actually one of our local pilots from the area here, so he flies out of West Kelowna.
Yeah,
based out of helicopters there. So, another tragic event. You know, in BC we haven't had any wildfire deaths in I think over 10 years.
Yeah,
and now we've had
3.
Well, 2 in BC and 1 in Alberta.
Yeah. So yeah, pretty tragic event. Thoughts are with everybody involved there.
I guess the other one was in Northwest Territory.
Yes, the other one was Northwest
But
Territory.
still all in the general area. Yeah.
Yeah. And then today, actually, they had the ceremony for Firefighter BC Forestry that passed away.
Right.
So
yeah.
Right. Yeah, and wildfires is definitely kicking off right now. We're kind of surrounded right now with the wildfires everywhere, but in our little neck of the woods. So we're waiting for the other shoe to drop, I guess. And we're not on deployment yet because forestry often they look at how the trends go, and right now they're expecting it to kick off in our area pretty quick. So they don't want to send any of our apparatus out to help others because we will probably need them shortly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I read an article a couple days ago, and they're talking about the redeployment of a lot of their resources right now. There's kind of restructuring everything and moving everything down to the southern interior where we are now because they're expecting all the activity to be shifting our way, which clearly in the past 3 days, it's trending huge.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not even like people are lighting fires by accident. It's more we got lots of dry lightning coming through lately, and then even just basic stuff like a car fire or things that would normally not start a wildfire could easily start a wildfire now. So,
and that's the thing. Like those vehicle fires, it seems like everybody's natural instinct is to pull way off the side of the road because they don't want to disrupt traffic. But what they're doing is they're pulling themselves into all of that brush. They're right on the edge of everything that's going to be combustible, rather than being right in the middle of the highway where it's just going to be pavement. So
it's not like I don't want to bother anyone with my fire.
Yeah,
nothing to see here. Just go around me.
Yeah,
no, your car's on fire.
I'll definitely bug the entire forest now.
Yeah.
So note to self: if your vehicle catches on fire during traveling this summer, park in the middle of the highway.
Exactly.
Yeah. Put a brake on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe chock a wheel.
Yeah, if you can. So on to discuss our sprinkler deployment stuff. So actually for the last 2 weeks, Ash, you've been doing that with the crew on our practice nights.
Yeah.
We've been on my side of the fence. I've been doing some incident command stuff with tiny towns and that sort of thing, which we'll talk about another day. And I think we've talked about in the past.
Yeah.
But Ash, what have you been doing, and what have you been doing it with?
Yeah, so Rob and myself have been heading up some wildland sprinkler protection training. We recently picked up some sprinklers, which we'll chat about here in a moment. But we put together 2 totes for our local area that's outfitted with 6 sprinklers each, a bunch of Forestry Wise, Water Thieves, Econoline. This is jam-packed with everything that we're hopeful that each tote could protect up to 2 homes off of 1 tote, which would then be coupled with a water tender for support with pumps, bladders, and hose, obviously. So, we've been taking the crew. We start off in our ready room, and we're kind of chatting about, because, this is still a bit of a newer thing for us when it comes to sprinklers. Like, we've seen it. Most of our command has taken the course now. We did get some more senior members come in as well and took a course with us. And it's definitely not like new in the industry, but for us to be looking at this in our area is definitely new. So just kind of going through and chatting with our guys and gals, just how how much benefit that they can bring to our area, because we have a large interface and large intermix area here,
Right.
where a sprinklered house with very minimal manpower can really do a lot of good. So yeah, so we go over, we start off in our ready room, and I basically draw it out for them, because I always find in training, if you bring people out of the bays and you go down and then you try to, okay, well, we need all this stuff out. Okay, well, we have to do this. Now people are starting to walk around, and, you don't always get their full attention. So being able to sit down in a nice room with a whiteboard, and I drew basically our two burn buildings, and we have a couple of like smaller buildings next to them, and basically laid out exactly what we were looking to see. And what was sweet is each week we actually talked about like how we learned. When we took the course, they kind of let us fail, and and not fail, just we over-engineered our systems like crazy. Like I think our first one, we had like 6 sprinklers up on the one building. I mean, it wasn't going anywhere. But in a real event, that's not going to be good.
Yeah, because your water's going to run out pretty fast.
Yes, exactly. Right. So we explained that, and kind of shifted and said, hey, like learn from what we learned from, and we'll teach you why you don't want to do that. And then we talked about like hose lays and how you should be setting up for the sprinkler protection. The straight line with water thieves along the way, or the closed loop system. And we are preaching the closed loop system where you have the gated Y, and every length of 1.5 inch forestry, you have a water thief or 2, and then that keeps looping around the structures that you're going to protect on the inside of the structures, like not the inside of the building, but the inside of like the properties, and then it comes back to itself. So the science and math behind that is, if you're running a straight line, you'll have a sprinkler head here and one at the very end. If you're in any sort of agriculture industry, the very last sprinkler is going to have a lot less pressure than the one right at the head. Right. So the closed loop system keeps it so this sprinkler that's nice and close to the pump is going to be exactly the same as the one right dead in the middle, and the one's coming back. So yeah, we basically just went through that, chatted about like how fast it should take. Like this isn't something that you really want to dawdle on.
No.
I spent a lot of time talking about, and then going down there and doing it and saying like, this is all triage, right? So everything that comes in mind just when you're thinking sprinkler protection is you have to triage these buildings. And if this one is going to be defensible with 2 or 3 sprinklers, if this premises, that's where we want to put our focus on.
Right.
And if there's 2 or 3 buildings on that property, obviously the home is your main focus. Mm-hmm. So when we drew it up for our burn building, I said, okay, the burn building, the first one is our home. So let's get something going there. Then these other 2 are very important outbuildings to them, but it's not the main focus. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the fastest that we could get them to get water flowing out of one sprinkler is the main goal. Right? So get something going, because something's better than nothing. And with sprinkler protection, obviously you have your trigger points where as soon as it gets to a certain point, you have to leave, whether you're done or not. Right? So if you can get one sprinkler up, you're already giving that benefit over nothing. And now, hey, now we have extra time. Let's improve upon the system. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was really good. It was neat because we had a pretty different mix of people each week. So to see how all of that was, taken and then implemented out in the field, we got a ton of buy-in, which is sweet. So anytime that we bring something new, it's always neat to kind of watch, the younger members, and by younger, I don't mean age, but in time like the newer members versus the senior guys that have known about this, but maybe haven't had hands-on. Right. It's neat to see the dynamic, but between the two. The newer members are always 9 out of 10 times are just a sponge, and they're there to learn, and they're stoked on it. Where the seasoned guys,
they're skeptical.
They're a bit more skeptical, right? So it was really cool to see on the back end of both training events that even like the most skeptical were like, man, this like the humidity difference, the coverage.
One thing you guys did, we brought the Kestrel. You guys brought the Kestrel out, which measures different fire weather. Yeah. So one of the things is the relative humidity. Yeah. So we want to get it above that 30%. And it was at what, 25 when you guys went out there?
Yeah, it's 24, 25 when we did up there, and we ended off at 37.
Yeah, so
Like it
so it
really kicked
brought it
that up. Yeah,
and that really slows that flame front down when it hits that humidity level.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Seeing that actually work, like on a couple of years ago on our fire that we had, that was our first actual application of it when there's actually fire coming.
Mhm.
And I tell you, man, seeing that fire behavior just die right down as it approaches that humidity bubble, it's amazing.
Sure.
And that was our big buy-in a couple of years ago since
Yes.
we've been talking about it. And it works amazing. Yeah, I can't preach it enough.
I think back when you were still on our department, 15 years ago or whatever, when I first started and you were on, the difference we used to fight wildfires, we used to run structure line. I don't remember that. Remember we never really ran forestry line.
Oh, it was all structure.
It was all structure line, and we battled the grass fire, and we wouldn't. Like, it was just. It wasn't. We were bad at it. Our tactics were not good because we hadn't been trained through forestry, and we didn't know their tactics. And now just even the amount of difference it is over the years.
Yeah.
Now everything we use is forestry line, lighter, more maneuverable. We use way less water.
Oh, yeah.
We have those bump and run tactics where we can, it doesn't have to look pretty. It just has to get to work.
Yep.
And now with the sprinklers, again, sprinklers are, they're like, oh, I want to use a big hose. That's why I'm a firefighter. It's like, or the sprinklers are pretty cool because they really work well.
Yeah.
And we could use them in conjunction. Like the way forestry uses them is kind of different than I could see us using them. Because they use them, they set them up for days beforehand, and then they have, like you said, trigger points. Whereas we could use them even if we're not going to leave, we could turn them on and just leave less crew there with a couple hand lines to defend the structure, and still have the sprinklers going.
Yeah.
Like I think back to when we were at the Inkey fire, when you came up, and we had your truck, my truck, and an engine. So it was you had an engine with it, So 2 engines and a rescue truck which had water on it. And I think a tender showed up. Mm-hmm. So the amount of water we had defending one home. Yeah. And we were all looking the one way, and you happened to look up on the deck, and the deck caught on fire, which we dealt with right away. But it was like, even if we had one of these sprinkler kits set up there, even if 2 or 3 sprinklers, that whole house would have been defended. We could have left one engine there to kind of man the defenses. And because it was a nice open area where the Ember Storm was coming, though, that's what was getting us. We could have left one truck kind of in the middle of that grass and just defended the home, and we did absolutely more than fine. For sure. And we could have redeployed to the other. I mean, in the end, it worked out well. We got probably lucky that it kind of curved itself up the mountain.
And for that specific fire, like where all the structures were, they're so spread out. Yeah. And we actually had a lot of resources for what was kind of in the front of it at that moment. So it really worked out. Yeah. But like if you go and let's say we have that same fire again now, now with some sprinklers and stuff, you can spread out even more. Yeah, sure, then you're not tied in with that many apparatus. Yeah. You can have everything set up and ready to go.
Because I think back even to where Ash was, they were defending that one home, and the engine was there, and then the tender was there, and they were kind of tied in. Eventually, you guys dropped a pump. Yeah. Left 2 guys there, with some hand lines. Yeah. But if we imagine now, we could leave the pump, sprinkler protection, doing sprinklers, and then one hand line with another, 2 guys with one hand line and some sprinklers going. That would have easily been that would have been safe, defensible, and then the apparatus could have went somewhere else.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think getting a little bit away from the topic of sprinklers, but just on what Scott was saying there about if you were to look back that 10, 15 years, it's really cool to see how far the structure firefighters have come to the forestry side. And
sadly the forestry guys haven't really come on our side, but
we kind of comment on it'd be nice to come back this way a bit, because the flip side of that is we do have all this water and all of this equipment that if we didn't have sprinklers available on that same fire, we have the ability with this equipment to do a lot of good on short term.
6,000 gallons at a rate, maybe be just fine.
Exactly.
So, but it's really cool to see how we have adopted all of these tools, and at the end of the day, it's just going to make things safer for us and our guys and gals as well, right? Because what we were doing was safe, we were managing risk, but I mean we were in a very dangerous situation, but we were managing risk. With sprinklers, you remove a lot of that risk because you're doing that ahead of the fire. Hopefully, obviously, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was gonna say, I was really impressed by how far the sprinklers actually reach.
Yeah.
Because you imagine sprinklers in your head, and you're expecting like a lawn sprinkler. And it's like how much this is going to cover.
Mm-hmm.
Like tonight, the video we shot, where it was like a small shack, basically an old picker's cabin, and it's not very big. We end up putting 2 sprinklers up more just for comparison's sake. Just the 2 methods of mounting them, which is one was screwed it directly to the outside of the roof line.
Like to the soffit.
Yeah, to the soffit. Yeah. And then the other one we do what's called a flagpole. So we got a couple 2x4s, screwed them together, and raised it with some rope. So you don't have to go down a ladder, and you don't have to screw it to the building.
Yeah.
So we showed those 2 methods, but that one little building that had like way more protection than it needed.
Yeah.
And we were kind of in an area where there's a large garage and a small shed, like the cabin. I think 3 sprinklers are more than enough to protect that whole area.
That entire area.
Yeah. And approximately, like we have 1,000-gallon drop tanks, so we have 4 of those. So we were running 1 drop tank tonight. But
1 tank, 1 pump,
2 sprinklers,
and two sprinklers, where we could add on like another 4 easily sprinklers and not overtax the system whatsoever.
And what were you when you were running your system training in the last week? You were running 6 sprinklers.
3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6, and we had 1 person on a protection line.
Right. So there's with the 6 sprinklers. You were doing it was like a 30-minute run time, right, on 1,000 gallons.
Yeah, so we didn't quite run out of water. We didn't quite run out of fuel, but 30 minutes running, we checked it, and it was. We were sucking pretty close to the bottom of the tank, and we had maybe a quarter of fuel left.
Right.
So if that's kind of what we keep in our mind, that once we do hit that trigger point, and we do have to bug out, you got 30 good minutes of run time.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And that's the nice thing, and it's also important about practicing these and having discussions of the fire behavior. Like having the cash flow. Look, what kind of wind are we dealing with? What's our humidity level, or what? Currently until we fire up the system, but also creating those trigger points. And then, so with finding out your runtime and with your Kestrel, knowing what your humidity level is and the wind conditions, your fire conditions, picking that trigger point is super, super important because you're going to have to reevaluate that trigger point. Okay, like, is that one most appropriate knowing only have 30-minute run times? Because you want to try and find that happy zone of, okay, well, we want obviously some humidity in the air, and it's going to take a bit to accumulate versus, start firing the pump up too soon and now everything's gone by the time it arrives, or too late and that humidity is not quite there.
Right.
It's pretty important reevaluating those trigger points.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we even chatted about that tonight when we were with the rookies there. And they're like, so do we not fire this thing up until like right at the last minute? And I'm like, well, you kind of have to be working on these things with a few things in mind. So if you are tied to a water tender where they're right on scene with you and there's extra water, there's nothing wrong with getting that humidity level running prior to it.
Make a flood.
Yeah, like literally soak everything down.
If you have the water,
if you have the water. If you're going to be water limited, where you get what you get, maybe they can come back and top you back up, get the system going, make sure everything's dialed, and then shut it down.
Yeah.
And then only fire it up when it's ready to run.
Yeah. I mean, we had some talk about, we have a interface area right here. That 2015, when the fire came over the mountain, we were, you guys were down. We had like apparatus kind of tied up guarding all these houses, and they were all super tight. So we probably could have used all 12 of those sprinklers. I bet they would have almost covered that whole section. 12 sprinklers, maybe not quite, but it would have covered a vast majority of that neighborhood. And we could have tied right into could have tied either the tank into the hydrant just to constantly refill the tanks, because I think it's still important running the pumps, because you get the right pressures and stuff. But we could easily we could have like 2 people constantly refilling the thing, just refilling the tanks with off the hydrants, right? So if you have that water, just let it run and make it super humid in that area.
Yeah, something else that we spoke of as well is if you're at the residence and they do have a water tap on the side of their house, there's nothing stopping you from grabbing a hose, putting that into your bladder, and just have it slowly nursing through that 3/4 inch, garden hose. If you're not running the tank, or if you're not running your system, but you want to test it or whatever, it's not going to fill it quick, but any little bit of extra water helps, right? So
yeah, and it's super important, like you mentioned, Ash, is firing everything up, make sure everything is working, and you've got your kind of spread that you're looking for, your sprinklers that you've selected to use, and just then shutting everything down and make sure everything's prepped up and ready to go.
Yeah, for sure. Another thing that we really focused on, and when we talk about making that closed loop system, and you have your 1.5-inch forestry coming off of the Y, and then it goes out to a water thief, and then it goes out again, and then you have another water thief. I was explaining to the people, like, have a look at what you're trying to protect. So if you come off of your Y and you have 2 buildings or a large building where you might need more than 1 sprinkler, double up your water thief.
Mm-hmm.
So you have 2 of them, like, right at the same location. Same thing when we came back around to our main building. I said, make a manifold. Like, how many sprinklers do you think that you'll need there? They're like, 2, maybe 3. I'm like, toss 3 in immediately.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't use it, it's just a piece of plastic there, right? Yeah. But if you need it, then you're adjusting everything for that flow rate, for that sprinkler setup, for that building in one spot. You're not going to, okay, this sprinkler pressure looks good. I'm going to run back over here and adjust this one on the next one that's 100 feet away.
Mm-hmm.
No, everything's here. So, you will likely have everything wide open, but if you don't need to, or if you're overpressuring, like, the nice thing about these new sprinklers is even if you're overpressure, all that you'll see really is a little bit of extra water is going to run off the head. Right. It doesn't not work like some of the brass ones. Right. Like if you overpressurize a brass sprinkler, it'll just stop, right? Yeah. Where these ones will keep going, but you'll just see a stream of water running down. Right. So you can dial it back a bit. Guys are like, well, isn't that bad for the valve? Sure. I mean, it's not the best over time. It will start to erode the valve, but I mean, what's a water thief worth? I mean,
$20
pennies, right? So if you burn up 1 or 2 thieves throughout your summer, I mean, whatever, it's just kind of that cost of doing business. I'm like, use that valve to like fine tune exactly what you're looking for. I'm like, I'd rather have a little bit too much pressure than not enough, but being mindful of obviously your water consumption.
I mean, the other thing you have to think of is that whole sprinkler system, like the pumps, the hoses, the sprinklers, you're basically leaving it all to burn. Absolutely. You have to be willing to be like, that's the last time we're going to see that. That's the last time we're going to see this stuff. Yeah. Which is one reason why we actually went to the cheaper, like we use the Honda pumps, which are like, I don't want to say pennies. they're substantially cheaper than like a nice WaterX, like Mark III. Yeah. Because Mark IIIs are designed specifically for forestry. When they run out of water, they shut themselves down. They're definitely designed for that. But we're using the Honda pumps, which they run forever. All of our stuff's Honda pumps. Yeah. So it's easy for a crew to be like, okay, this pump's the same as every other pump. So this pump runs the same, or the same motor that runs our fan, the same motor that runs everything else. So it's everyone knows how to start it. So it's good in that way.
Yeah, I think it also depends on like, look at your department, look at your area of coverage. What's your purpose, right? Like, are the Honda pumps going to be totally sufficient? It's going to work, or do you need more of the WaterX style pumps? Like, the one thing we've found with our Mark IIIs is they like to run hot. They want to run high pressure, and if you don't have enough lines out, if you're not flowing enough water, you're blowing hoses, or you're blowing the gaskets out. The O-rings are shooting through the line always. Yeah, we're always finding that problem. So you got to really think of what you're doing for your pressure that you're using. And then the other side, just a side note on the sprinkler stuff, is think of where you're dropping your bladder and pump and everything. Do you need a sprinkler for your pump protection as well? So that's something that we've practiced in the past. Is correct. We haven't applied it because we just don't have that forestry area. But it's another thing that maybe you just drop a quick sprinkler off a thief by the pump site, and then that's protected as well.
I think we learned like they had like a Y and they just opened a nozzle, just on like a fog, which seems like burns up a little bit.
It's a lot of water. The sprinklers, more efficient just run a quick econo, but again, then you got to think of your pressure too, right? And now that's peaking off of a Mark III versus might be totally sufficient with a Honda.
Right.
Yeah.
So, So did we talk about the sprinklers?
So we haven't
No,
really
so
dove
you guys
into
have new
sprinklers.
sprinklers now.
Yeah. So we have sprinklers from Wildfire Protection out of Seminar, BC. Actually, Ash, you're the one that was his Scott from that from that company. So it's a small sort of, I don't want to say a one-man shop, but it's smaller.
Basically a one-man show, yeah.
One-man show. But he's been around doing some stuff at our seminar and the Chiefs conference. So we were talking to him. The sprinkler that we're using is the SPS 2400.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know the stats.
Yeah. So Scott was great. He came out. He was at our seminar. But to be honest with you, I didn't really have a moment to think about going and saying hello to a lot of these people.
Right.
We definitely thank them for coming out and being there and supporting us. But that's not the time that we can really go and dive in and have like some in-depth chats about them and their business and their products. But we did find time to go and chat at the BC Fire Chiefs in Penticton. Talked to him, talked about the sprinklers. He had a small demo going there. And then we reached out to him on the back end of Chiefs, had a couple chats, and just the way that it worked out, he was able to come up to us. He actually bought a new pickup truck in Vernon and then drove down the rest of the way after. And came down and did a sweet visit, chatted about the sprinklers. What we should have done actually is brought one in so we can show them on the video here. But
well, while you're talking,
maybe you can run out. But having chatted with him, the design of it is very, very simple, which is what I really liked about it. And like, bless our guys here, everybody's like, oh man, I'm sure we can make this. Well, yes, you probably can. Well, I guarantee you, we have guys here that can make it. Because it's simple, but that's the beauty of the design, and like supporting somebody that's actually done the research on like the design, the materials, the proper sprinkler head, and then the fit and finish. So that's something that we couldn't recreate here. Like, we have farmers and we can make it happen, but like the fit and finish, like, it is a nice polished product. And actually, just speaking with them after seeing the design at first, I started to explain how it would be nice to be able to interchange heads. And he's like, oh yeah, like, I don't know why you would want to do that. So I explained, like, for us, we're not going to say this one sprinkler will always do this. Like, we might want to be able to interchange different gallonage, different pressure ratings. So as Scott has here, this is what we ended up getting. So it's very, very simple. You've got your regular sprinkler or garden hose connector down at the bottom, which accepts Econoline. We have copious amounts of Econoline. A simple bracket coming off of.
One thing I like is this moves independently.
Yeah, it's a swivel.
It's swivel, and it's way better for connecting those hoses.
Yeah,
instead of it getting all twisted. Yeah.
So that's really nice. Has the brass adapter there. Just a nice quick S bend to it, which gets it away from your roof line, which in the video that we're uploading.
I was surprised because there was actually that roof that we were at had a pretty good overhang on it.
Yeah.
It's easily
perfect.
cleared.
Yeah, so it's great. He gives us 6 mounting holes. If you're going to permanently mount this, absolutely, let's get that secured. For what we do, we find 2 on a diagonal works perfect. Let's just get that up quick.
I think the lightness of this is like a pound and a half.
Absolutely. Very, very simple. And then the riser, and then we get up top to the sprinkler head.
Oh, we didn't actually buy the other one.
So this is the first design. So, and they come apart really, really simple. So everything that moves can come apart, and you have the sprinkler head here. And you can't really see it in the video, but you can interchange out nozzle sizes. So this is a green, which I don't have the spec in front of me, but we have, it's like 3...
Just smaller.
Smaller, yeah. It's just all smaller orifices, so it's like 3 gallons per, and then the big one, the gray or the black, is up to like 7. Yeah. So it can be interchanged by pulling them apart and getting them ready that way, or you can have them pre-fit. I'll just get this back in here. Click. And exchange the entire head. So how you would do that with this one is you'd actually have to unthread it. It's pipe thread plastic into aluminum, which over time as you know, when you're doing things quickly, you're probably going to mar up the threads.
Yeah.
So I said, is there any way that we can change this? So the newer design, he actually added another adapter piece to it. It rises up about 1/4 inch total, but it goes to an Acme thread. So it's one single turn with a gasket and everything pops off. So what we're going to do is actually color code the outside of the basket here. And like black will be big, and then we'll paint this part green or something.
And then we can have more heads.
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
just for the sake of room inside of those bins, because we could put double the amount of heads in those bins and less risers.
Yeah, so the risers is, I mean, that's all the same from each to each, right? But it changes on the inside of the actual sprinkler. And everything that water hits is, what's the word I'm looking for? All of the moving parts are not where water's going through. It comes up through your riser, it comes up through your orifice, and then everything that moves doesn't have water flowing through it. So there's a lot less likely of a chance for it to get plugged up with debris, which like your wasp style sprinkler, those butterfly wasp sprinklers, are prone to clogging. So we even talked about going further and tossing on just a small little basket screen gasket on the base of it here. That's something that you can add on afterwards, just to further help with that debris. But if you end up having an issue out on the line, you can pull everything apart. Again, just flash up the sprinkler. It's going to spew it, right out of the top, and then you can pop out.
Sweet water fight.
There you go.
You can end up popping out from here, the green nozzle here as well, and then everything's wide open. Just a quick blow, and all of your debris out of there again. So, really awesome design. There's nothing proprietary about this head. He's open about it. He says he gets it from Rainbird, which is a very common agricultural sprinkler head, but this is not common to our area. So like even one of our guys is like, oh, I've got almost the same one, and then he looks at it a bit deeper. He's like, oh no, mine's a bit different here, it's a bit different here, it's not the same, it's not as big. So it's definitely for smaller spray. This has a much larger output.
What was the distance we were getting? I want to say we were getting 60, 70 feet.
Yeah, about that. Yeah, the short one was from the sprinkler. I think we were getting about 25 feet from the sprinkler.
So 50 overall.
So 50 overall, and then the other one, I think he was getting up to just over 70. Of like really, really good
saturation.
Yeah, and it's crazy going from the smaller head like we have here to the larger one. You don't get an extra ton of distance, like it is some, but just the size of those water droplets that
basically like an inch and a half versus a 2.5.
Exactly. It's going to get really, really similar coverage for distance wise, but what you are getting is just that larger droplets. The
deluge,
Yeah, so awesome. They do powder coat them. It comes in a couple different colors. We like the high vis for what we're doing here. Obviously, a large portion of his business is fixed mounted. So people that live in these interface areas, in these intermix areas, he'll actually go and put these right up on your house permanent. And those ones come in a little bit more of a like earthy tone, so it blends in a bit more. But for us, if we have one up, we want to see that we have one up. So red, behind, red, green, like something that isn't going to blend in.
Yeah.
So
sweet.
The other nice thing with these versus your kind of traditional sprinkler systems for the SPS stuff is, when we start talking about the different GPMs for the sprinklers, now you have, like when we had our structure protection trailer, there's so many fucking sprinklers.
Yeah, the choices are, when you get too many choices, it's like...
And everything is on a heavy steel base that's designed for a fence or a ground spike or a pole, and it's heavy. And this is so light and so universal. And now with that new adapter, or the interchange, the sprinkler, this is where it's at, man.
And especially for like what we're using it for, because we're using it only for like our needs. We're not doing a massive trailer. It's like we're
local needs.
Local needs. A couple bins. I think we haven't used it yet. Like use it in real deployment, but I can see it definitely getting used. And one thing we actually decided to do, we weren't sure. We were kind of debating where to put it. Because on a wildfire, our engines will go out because our engines have forestry deployable lines. Obviously for structural protection. our bush trucks go out because they're bush trucks. So our side by side and our truck, bush truck, it'll be out. They'll be running around doing their thing because that's what they're designed for.
Yeah.
And then our tenders, of course, will be moving around dumping water. So we're like, and then the command vehicles will be commanding. They'll be ripping around. So we were kind of debating, well, where do we put these things? We had actually thought putting on the duty truck, but again, the duty truck often should be not tied in anything because it needs to be detached from the scene to do its to do a command job. So then I was sitting and I realized our rescue truck. Well, it came out in the last big wildfire we had, and I was actually captain on it, and it was like it can do some stuff, but it's not designed to do wildland stuff. But what it does have is it's got a lot of power.
Yep.
It's got a lot of battery tools.
Yep.
It's got a short extension ladder. I think it goes to 20 footer. It's not a typical extension ladder.
Yeah.
But it's a short one, and it's got room on the upper deck. So that's where we put our totes. Our two big totes for sprinklers, and then we actually managed to even up on our deck because we have this massive area up top. We've actually got a bundle of 2x4s that are strapped together, and they're going to stay there for just the summer. They're strapped together and they're hooked in up top. Yeah. So if we have to, we can just deploy right from there. That truck, since it's not going to be tied up to doing anything else, it can just kind of drive around. We were concerned, well, what are we going to be able to get into places with it? But then we realized, well, we're getting tenders into places that the rescue truck's basically the same size as a tender. So.
Yeah, which is something the guys brought up during our training is, some of these more intermixed areas, access is kind of dog shit. But that's where pumps and
it's also portable too, right?
Yeah, so everything's portable.
Yeah, so we can easily take that tote, put it in the bush truck.
Yeah, and take it the rest of the way.
Take it the rest of the way.
Yeah, and if you have to have your pump set up down at the road, with your bladder, if egress was sketchy or whatever, you didn't want to get yourself tied up way in there.
Or there's a pool, or
there's many reasons why you might not want to be in there or should be in there. But the actual premises, the structure is very, very defensible. There's nothing stopping you from running 4 lengths of 2.5 to get yourself out there, and then why off and go and do everything that you have to do. So then you're only putting water right to the side of the road. But that's where that bush truck or the officer truck can come in handy and help shuttle the gear and the guys in there.
So that's basically sprinklers. I'm looking forward to seeing them being used, but hopefully they never be used. I know one day we will. I know one day we will have to use them, of course, because it's just not a thing that we just have wildfires here. And looking back at over the years of all the fires we've had, there's like many times I could see us throwing these out there, even if they weren't actually like turned on. Just it would be a nice peace of mind as an officer or even as a firefighter, just being like, okay, I know behind me I have a sprinkler running too, so. I don't have to keep looking behind me going, because is a roof on fire? Is this on fire? Yeah. So it's like.
Absolutely. Well, and then also going back to our fire we had a couple years ago, the one structure days after it kicked off, I remember we came back up for mutual aid with you guys. And we were sitting on one of the houses where there's actually already a bladder and the sprinkler system set up from forestry for protection. But that was kind of our holding zone or defendable zone anyway. So we stayed there at the engine, and they were prepping for their back burn. And later that night, they finally ended up doing a bit of a burn. And so that's when they sparked up the system after we were gone. But everything was ready to go. And if we needed to make a change there, we could fire it up. And if we wanted to stay, we could stay, or we could deploy our engine to another resource. So it frees you up so much more.
It sure does.
But they're fantastic sprinklers. I really like what he's done with these. I think they're the move, man.
Yeah, after going through everything that we've done, the only thing that they don't have is that ground spike. So I chatted to them, and we can get just a few more of the heads again, and then just go down to our regular, house and yard or whatever, and pick up a few of those ground spikes with his Acme adapter. And then, so if you do have some, some piles of whatever that, say next to the structure there's a pile of wood, and that's the only thing that you can't move away, because when you're in there doing your triaging and everything else, you can jackpot away. But things that can't move, that would be really nice to get some low level sprinkler protection on. It'd be nice to have like maybe 1 or 2 of those ground spikes. But then still,
even like you said, even the jackpot, you put the jackpot in the middle of the thing, and then you put the spike around it, so that way it sprays on all that stuff. Right?
Yeah, so there is some opportunity there as well. One thing that came up from our training, actually, before I forget, one of our more seasoned guys is, man, like, why don't we just get some zap straps? Get like some long 16 or 18s,
big ones,
that you can go right around. Like, there's some metal, like deck railings or whatever that you can wrap right around the post that you don't want to screw into their metal railing.
Right.
You could do a pretty quick deployment where you're not damaging any of the property. I'm like, yeah, it's great. Like something that we never thought of, and now we have some coming in. So for and the next time that we use it,
it's options, right? Because these are so light. Like this will take nothing for a couple of heavy straps to secure it, even with the water flow and force from it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, they're great. I think it's like anything we do. Like you got to adapt certain things and figure shit out on the fly, and having all those other little tools in the toolbox there is perfect.
Yeah.
Sweet. Oh, that's pretty. Anything else?
No, I'm looking forward to some more training with them coming up, and I think we'll have something to chat about.
Yeah, I think I mean, it's not a surprise that the next FTX, the field training exercise we're going to do, is going to be obviously going to be some sprinklers. It's going to be a wildland deployment with some sprinklers, a sprinkler component to it. So we'll do some training on that, and we'll probably talk about that coming up. Shout out to Modus.
Yeah, Modus, as we always say, claim to fame is going to be the old snagger tool, but they've got so many other things in their kit. Working on some pretty cool things right now coming down the pipe with some of their textiles. But check them out on their social medias, see everything that they offer. We just picked up a bunch of their new X-Line gloves. So pumped on that. We are transitioning all of our members towards those as their current ones run out. Gloves, bags, 4th century wedges, soft entry stuff. We got tools laying on the deputy chief's desk here right now. We got a lot of Modus gear kicking around in our personal kit and on our trucks now.
That's my snaggers everywhere. I'm like, oh, there's another one.
Yeah, I know that's
my
great.
locker, my truck.
Check them out on their social media. Check them out on ours. We have some videos showing them off as well. If you like what you see, which you should, use discount code DTFF5 for 5% off your order.
Absolutely.
Done. Stop the bleed.
Stop the bleed. Always a good thing. 3 methods of mass hemorrhage control: direct pressure, tourniquet application, and wound packing. Make sure you have a good tourniquet. Make sure it's out of the plastic wrapper, and make sure you have more than one. Saltbleed.org or .ca will take you into the sites. You can check out our YouTube content on the course as well.
Nice.
Wolf Tree
Coffee. We're crazy late tonight, so we're not crushing their coffee, or we'll be jittery before bed. But Wolf Tree Coffee, they're on the social medias, and they also have a website, wolftreecoffee.com. Check them out there. They got a lot of really good blends. Their big push right now is the cold brew for the summertime, which we've been crushing like crazy at home. But we've also partnered with them with the Initial Attack blend. Delicious. It was really neat to sit down and taste everything, come up with a specific blend that kind of we all agreed on, and I think it's a winner. And the nice thing, Wolf Tree Coffee, when we first came out with it, was for our seminar back in May, and we had the Honor House Society there with us as well, and they gave a donation off of the sales. What they've done is they're continuing to offer $2 from every pound of Initial Attack blend purchased, and will continue to be donated to the Honor House Society. So you're getting an amazing product. Like, the coffee's great. It's a small town business, owned and operated by 2 friends of ours, basically, and they're delivering all over the South Okanagan, and I believe they're shipping everywhere now as well, with that awesome kickback to the Honor House Society, which is a retreat for first responders, military, anything like that. If you have to go down to the greater Vancouver area for any sort of medical treatment or recovery. So, Wolf Tree.
Yeah.
Tanner Olson, country music out of West Coast Canada. They're out at Stampede.
No, they might have been at the Stampede. They just played at the Gone Country, which is like a country music. It's for cancer awareness.
Oh, nice.
It's like it was out in Cloverdale. Yeah, so the big crowd they played there. They were not headlining, but they were like second or third. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're big fans of Tanner. Tanner, they're fantastic. They came out and played at a seminar and put on one hell of a show. So yeah, check them out on all the socials wherever you download and stream your music.
Yep.
Yeah, huge fans of Tanner, and the band is fantastic.
Yeah,
country music's beginning to grow on me.
Yeah, it is.
We're gonna get Scott into some boots here in no time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways. Yeah. And lastly, us. We're available on all the social medias: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter,
Facebook.
Facebooks.
I don't think we're on the Twitter space.
Yeah, definitely on Facebook, YouTube. Check us out. We are finally putting some content out there.
Mm-hmm.
There should be some on Tiny Towns.
Yep.
And other ESM stuff, and then there will be the sprinkler content we made tonight.
Forestry.
You'll be able to see the
forestry deployment.
Yeah, and you'll be able to see
Bump and
the the one we recently put up was a bump and run. But tonight we've just done our content on the sprinklers.
Yep.
So that'll be out in the coming weeks.
Yep.
So you'll be able to see what the sprinklers look like on the line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We'll try to get that out right away, so maybe some people can buy some before the end of the summer.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Yeah, shirts. Yeah. Two people are wearing shirts. I'm also wearing a shirt, just not the DTFF. Yeah, the Moose Logo shirts are still out there. You can check them out on our Facebook page. We are shipping all over the world.
Worldwide, baby.
Worldwide.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, so buy one.
Yeah.
I'll send it to you.
DTFFstore.com. You'll find that information on our Facebook site as well. And then, send us an email and we'll get that shirt out to you.
Sweet.
Yeah, I love seeing the photos from the wild. You know, people are wearing them and taking photos in the gear out there. It's really, really cool to see.
Someone had on one of their old ones.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was really cool to see.
Yeah. Which we might bring back one day once we sell more Moose shirts. Yeah. Cool.
Sweet.
Any more for any more?
Nope.
Is it a Carl thing?
It is, yeah. It's like the last of the Carl.
I'll keep going on the Carl thing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks. Good night. Stay safe. Stay DTFF.